So really all I wanted to do, we talked about the various attributes of the laws and leadership that Maxwell put out. Then we were trying to overlay that on the stories of Joshua. And we got through down into Joshua 7, and I just wanted to continue doing that. So what I want us to do in each of these cases, not necessarily having to fit it into the categories of the Maxwell's laws, although if you see that, it jumps out at you, certainly do so. But I just want you to reflect on what is Joshua doing from a leadership standpoint. What do you see coming out of these particular circumstances? So I want to go to Joshua 8. And I have 8:3 through 4, but I'd like someone to actually read 8:3 through 9.
So Joshua and the whole army moved out to attack Ai. He chose 30,000 of his best fighting men and sent them out at night with these orders. Listen carefully. You are to set an ambush behind the city. Don't go very far from it. All of you be on the alert. I and all those with me will advance on the city, and when the men come out against us, as they did before, we will flee before them. They will pursue us until we have lured them away from the city, for they will say, they are running away from us as they did before. So when we flee from them, you are to rise up from ambush and take the city. The Lord your God will give it into your hand. When you have taken the city, set it on fire. Do what the Lord has commanded. See to it you have my orders. Then Joshua sent them off, and they went to the place of ambush and lay in wait between Bethel and Ai, to the west of Ai. But Joshua spent that night with the people.
So what do you see going on with Joshua and his leadership here? What are things that jump out at you?
He has a plan.
He has a plan. So in law and navigation, he's charted a course. It was his job to come up with a plan. And he had a plan, he had a plan. What else?
Well, he's telling them that God will give it into your hand.
Right, so he is giving that encouragement to them.
Yeah.
He is putting out in front of them the big picture that God is in control of this thing. So, don't get so buried into the weeds here about what we're doing. There's a bigger story going on.
So he's empowering those soldiers in the ambush also.
Yes,
Because they are to lead the ambush.
that's right. He left them to
He's
go
not
do
gonna
it.
be- He's not going to be there.
I'm leaving, you guys got to do this.
Yeah.
So he's delegated, empowered them, and put trust in them that they actually can get it done. What else do you see?
Timing. They aren't supposed to rush the city until after.
That's right. He's got to set up the timing of when things ought to happen. So timing was key in his leadership there, of being circles out that.
It's interesting, he went back to be with the people.
Yeah, how about that?
That's interesting.
Isn't it? So he was present, which is about relationship. It's about influence. It's about him not being in this ivory tower.
He was connected.
He was connected to them. You get into that concept again by, I talk about Edwin Friedman, a non-anxious presence. That's presence. You have to actually be among them for that to be effective. What else do you see?
Well, he told them that the Lord has commanded this to it.
Yep,
And that do it.
Do it.
Because God said.
right.
He seems to be secure and confident. At least it comes across.
Yeah, he does, right?
And that normally makes I feel better about following him.
Right. He is that non-anxious presence. There's no question of the wording that's coming out here. He is confident in what's about to happen. He's confident because he believes God's going to do this, but he's just confident that the plan's going to work, and he exudes that confidence. A leader certainly ought to be able to get input from people around them, whether it's in a business or in a church or in a family. But at some point, the leader who charts the course needs to express and show confidence in what's about to happen. Because everybody else is looking to that leader to go, is it going to be okay? Because that's what we all want to know. And somebody has to stand up and show the colors and say, it's gonna be okay, we can do this. And that is what Joshua was doing here. What do you think would be the most dangerous place to be in this particular attack?
Jericho.
Well, you wouldn't want to be in, yeah, well, Jericho or Ai, which I was corrected by a Jewish guide. It's I. I grew up, AI, right? That's Texican, but I is how it's pronounced.
Probably that rear end of the retreating force.
Yeah,
Pretty dangerous
that'd be pretty, because they might catch up
place.
with
Which
you.
would be the lead of the primary attack.
So if you're going out first, where do you think Joshua probably was?
Leading them.
Leading. So he's out there. He's with the attacking force. I and all those with me will advance on the city. So I don't think has all these other people saying, I'm right behind you. I mean, I sense that he is leading the advance. So just as you said, the most dangerous place is if you go out there and then you turn around, you're on the tail end. You're the closest to the arrows and whatever else they're trying to get to. So he didn't put other people out there to do something that he wasn't willing to do. Pretty big principle of leadership that he shows here.
I think the big part of the story is they had already lost the AI once.
Yeah.
Once.
Right.
God's telling them, okay, they purified yourself, now.
Now I'm really with you.
That's like, okay.
It didn't work last time. It didn't work last time. So his exuding confidence is pretty interesting because they had a complete meltdown failure the last time they tried this. And now here's Joshua going, this time's gonna work. And they believed him because he had that kind of relationship with them that they were willing to believe him. He had their buy-in to him as a leader. Okay, let's look at 8, 32 through 34. And go, 32 to 34. Somebody reads that.
He wrote there on the stones a copy of the law of Moses, which he had written in the presence of the sons of Israel. All Israel with their elders, their officers, and their judges were standing on both sides of the ark before the Levitical priests who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord. The stranger as well as the native. Half of them stood in front of Mount Gerizim, and half of them in front of Mount Ebal, just as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had given command at first to bless the people of Israel. Then afterward he read all the words of the law, the blessing and the curse, according to all this written in the book of the law.
Okay, so now what is Joshua doing? He's been a leader in battle.
He's a spiritual leader.
He's a spiritual leader. He's leading the heart, not just the might. And any leader, just because you're able to devise and execute plans doesn't mean you're leading their hearts. And Joshua was leading the heart. He gets down to the core, right, of what is spiritually there. And so then, how does he do it, though?
He's reminding them of the law.
He's reminding them of the law, of what God had spoken. So he's going back to the basics. He's not just writing about it. He is, this is what we have that we're supposed to be doing. he is being not only a spiritual leader, he is setting a moral standard for the people who are following him. And that's something when you start looking at the law of solid ground, that ethical and moral leadership that any leader must have, regardless of the sphere. The most effective business leaders are going to be ethical and moral for the long haul. They might have some short-term victories by being unethical, but the long haul, ethical and moral leadership is going to win out. Certainly it's going to be what you want to see in a church leader, and it really is going to be what you want to see in a family leader. So if you start thinking about the family, how does this play out as a spiritual leader of your family?
It's the same.
Yeah. So what do you got to do? What do you need to do? I mean,
Teach the law.
Teach the law. Teach
Teach the commands of Christ.
teach the Word of God.
Yeah. And I noticed here, and it says in 34, and afterward he read all the words of the law.
He read it.
The blessings and the curse according to all that's written in the book of the law.
Yeah.
So he just read it.
Yeah.
So just reading scripture.
Right.
Mm.
I guess he read Leviticus. You know? And I don't know whether he read the entire Pentateuch, but I mean, he got the law of Moses. But he wasn't just reading the Ten Commandments. That was a lot of writing to do on rocks.
Yeah.
I was looking at the rocks. I was thinking, well, it's got to be a big rock. And so I looked up Mount Elbow real quick, and they're little rocks.
Mhm.
They're not big rocks.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of writing.
That's a lot of writing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wrote on stones a copy of the law of Moses. That took some time. And
Don, it's pretty impressive how much he's entrenching himself in that tradition that Moses left, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, he wants the people to, not just to celebrate that immediate glory, but to recognize it as a part of a continuous strain that's a lot bigger than all of them.
so there's a continuity of faith that's being presented here, right?
Multi-generational.
Right, which is also when you start thinking out about particularly the spiritual leadership from a family standpoint. Now, some of us are blessed to have had generations of family who have been in the faith. Others have not. To the extent you have that, you need to talk about that. You know, your great-great-grandfather and great-grandmother were strong in the faith, and why we are strong in the faith is because they were. And you need to do the same thing. So that's basically what Joshua, from a visual standpoint, is doing here. If you don't have a family that has a history of strong leadership in the faith, then you can talk about the fact that we are creating that here. And you need to follow that through and be that person to your children and your grandchildren so that we start a legacy of faith here.
It's interesting, he wasn't just reading it, but it was written. So
Yeah.
this is something that people could actually see.
Right.
And he's giving them the picture that this is what God wants.
Yeah. It's hard for me to visualize this event. I mean, how big a wall of rocks did he have that he wrote all this on? He's reading it to them. Is he reading it off the rocks? They're able to see where it is. They can go up afterward and read on their own because it's there. But he is making a very visual statement about the importance of the law, right? This didn't take an hour. How many days do you figure it took him to do this? And they were kind of around. They had been offering. Joshua built on Mount Ebal an altar. They offered the Lord burnt offering and sacrificed fellowship offerings. They had built an altar out of stones. And I don't know whether these are the same stones he's writing the law on or whether these are other stones but the point is, these people were around, they were seeing him. I guess they were camping out, in the fields and waiting for him to finish writing the law. So there was no shortchanging of the time that he invested in this.
It was the whole assembly,
It's the entire assembly, everybody.
women and children.
Yes, everybody. Everybody. So when you start thinking about, again, the time you take with your family to emphasize Scripture and that legacy of faith. Time commitment.
It was going back to the scripture. So if you go back and find out where Moses told him to do that,
Mm-hmm.
that's an interesting one, because on Mount Gerizim, they proclaimed the blessings, Mount Ebal, the curses.
Yeah,
There's back and forth.
back and forth.
But also, Gerizim is where the Samaritans end up worshiping. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, when the false.
But the lady at the well, she said, "Well, during Jesus' time." That's why it ends up having Mount Gerizim.
No, with Jesus and the woman of the well was there, that's right.
So that's Jacob's well.
Is it Jacob's well?
Well, no, she said the Samaritans worship on the mountain.
Oh, worship on the mountain.
Oh,
They were,
mountain,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
She was talking.
It wasn't in that well, talking about we worship on the mountain.
Mount Gerizim.
And that's it, yeah. Okay, I have Joshua 10, 6 through 9.
The Gibeonites then sent word to Joshua in the camp at Gilgal. Do not abandon your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us, help us, because all the Amorite kings from the hill country have joined forces against us. So Joshua marched up from Gilgal with his entire army, including all of his best fighting men. The Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid of them. I have given them into your hand. Not one of them will be able to withstand you. After an all-night march from Gilgal, Joshua took them by surprise.
So what's Joshua doing here? From a leadership standpoint. He's helping, so he sees a situation, and he wants to do something, and he wants to lead his people to do it.
These are the ones that deceive.
Yes.
Gibeonites deception.
So he
Made a
honored
deal.
he honored an agreement that he really got tricked into signing effectively. Okay, so there's an ethical thing that he's doing here. Just because we enter into an agreement we don't like doesn't mean we don't fulfill it. And that's what he's doing. He is honoring his agreement, and he's showing the people that this is what you do. You honor agreements. So there's a moral leadership, again, that law of solid ground where he's showing that. But what else do we see him doing?
He didn't send his men out, he went with them.
He went with them, once again, he's taken them. And, verse 9,
All night,
an all-night march.
went it uphill too?
I don't remember.
I think I heard the story.
It was up there.
It was uphill.
That would make it worse, but an all-night march by itself, and then you're ready to go into battle, right? So there was a sense of urgency that he as a leader perceived. He knew time was short and something had to happen.
I have a question, this
Yeah.
doesn't have to do with, but I noticed in Joshua 8, it talks about, you know, he's reading the law and it says both the foreigners living among them and the native born. I thought when it said the foreigners, that was the Gibeonites, and we find out 2 chapters later, it's not the Gibeonites.
No, it's just-
So who's the foreigners with them?
Well, they had people who weren't Israelites, I mean, who were God followers. And we see those all the way into the New Testament.
Yeah.
There were people who were God-fearers, we call them the New Testament, who were not Israelites, but they believed in the one true God. And so we must be, because they were willing to stand and listen to the law and all that, your sense is that they were people who were at least God-fearers.
Rahab, the woman.
That's for sure, yeah. Yeah, she would have been there, right?
Yeah.
She was there. Because that's the, yeah, you don't have to back up very far. She was there, and her family. So an all-night march. I mean, that's that law of timing. Sometimes it's time to get on the stick and get after it, whatever it is. And that, again, can be business, church, family, when you see that there's something that needs to get done, it needs to get done right away, you don't waste any time, you get after it. And you do things that may seem, well, we can think about this a little longer, or we can, plan this a little more. No, we're gonna march all night. And we're gonna go with it because that is that important. So he as a leader was able to express a sense of urgency when the situation called for it, so that law of timing was at work in a big way. 10 and 12, chapter 10, verse 12.
On the day the Lord gave the Amorites over to Israel, Joshua said to the Lord in the presence of Israel, "Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Ajalon."
Wow, okay, so what's he doing there? Here's the leader of the Israelite army, Israelite people.
That's a pretty bold statement to make.
It's a bold prayer, isn't it?
Sun, stand still.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure I have that kind of boldness, but it was bold, right? And I think as a leader, particularly a spiritual leader, he was willing to articulate a bold prayer. And we need to be praying bold prayers in our leadership. We need to not be timid in what we ask for. I don't think probably that God's going to cause the sun to stand still for me, but he does answer bold prayers. We've seen him do it. We've seen him do it in our midst. I've seen him do it in my life. And yet we somehow think he's not going to keep doing it. We need to pray bold prayers as spiritual leaders. And that can translate into the business world. It's a little harder, but certainly you can ask God for favor in what you're doing in your business endeavors, and ask him to expand and give you success. If you have the heart of why you want to do that, I believe God honors those prayers.
Hey Don, I heard I saw this years ago, there was a gentleman on TV, brilliant guy, a minister, a scientist guy, a Christian guy, and he would always come up with different things and saying, here's what the scientists think it is, and here's what the Bible says. He would kind of show how it really probably happened biblically,
Right.
And he talked about this one here. And he said they actually have ran, these things looking at the skies and then backing it up,
Yeah.
And they said scientifically they show, and the scientists don't understand it.
There's a missing day.
But there's a missing day there, And
I've heard that.
they actually
I'm no
have
scientist, so
proved
I
that
can't.
scientifically,
Yeah.
So, he kind of throws it right back in the face of the scientists, that are
Yeah.
against biblical stuff.
Right.
Give me that 24 hours, what happened to that one? Anyway.
Did he do his bold prayer in quiet and private? No, in front of the people. So we're talking about praying bold prayers. Joshua's example would say, as a leader, people hear you pray them. Again, whether it's church, your family, if you're asking for bold prayers, you're not timid about it, you don't do it in quiet. You do it out in front.
It's funny, he's not saying, Lord, you take care of it for me now. He's saying, give me a little longer time.
Yeah, give me longer to get it
So I
done.
can do it.
I will not tell you that God has caused the sun to stand still. He has not. But I have prayed, Lord, stretch my day. What his answer to that has been is those days have I been ended up being more efficient, and things just fell into place like they normally don't. And so I still only had 24 hours, but something happened in those 24 hours that just more got done than it needed to get done. I was facing a situation, the times that I've done it, basically, where I just didn't think it was possible for me to get through what I needed to get through. And
Yeah, I think he wants you to pray more specifically.
Yeah.
And articulate, this is really what I'd like.
yeah,
Instead of saying, just bless me.
right, no, I agree. And that's where the bold prayers come in, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, I've got Joshua 11:23.
So Joshua took the entire land, just as the Lord had directed Moses, and he gave it as an inheritance to Israel according to their tribal divisions. Then the land had rest from war.
Okay. So, what is he doing there? What's happening from a leadership standpoint?
Strikes me that in some fashion, he's celebrating an accomplishment, a victory, an end to the effort, or however you want to say it.
Yes. He is saying we've accomplished it. Now we can do this. But there is a celebration that goes on. And we tend not to do enough of that. We tend not to celebrate when good things have happened. We tend not to celebrate when the Lord has done something great. We feel like, that's, I don't know, bragging, whatever it is, it kind of holds us back from doing that. But he is celebrating effectively and pronouncing that God has delivered. What else is happening here?
Joshua gave it away.
He did.
As the leader, he gave it away.
He gave it away. He decided not to take the kingship, right? Because he could have proclaimed himself as king about that time. People were following him. He had tremendous buy-in. They looked up to him. And if he decided, you know what, I think this idea of kings is a good idea, I think I'll be one.
Sounds like he's a fearless warrior as well.
Yeah, he was clearly that.
Yeah.
He was which is another reason why he could have set himself up as king, no doubt. He could have done that. It's kind of like when George Washington handed over, his general's commission at the end of the war. He did not want to take his position in the country by force, so he resigned his commission. But it's viewed as one of the most important events that occurred in our nation when he did that. Joshua is effectively doing that very thing right here. He had the power, and he could have abused the power. The power corrupts, and we know that. He was able to relinquish that because he believed that it came from the Lord, and this is what he was supposed to do. What else, though, is going on here, again, is from an integrity standpoint.
He's again following what the plan was that Moses.
What the plan was, right? We're going to divide up the land. The people were told, this is what you're going to get, and he actually followed through on that agreement. Not only did he give up power willingly and kept his ego in check, but he fulfilled what people had been promised. Again, integrity at work as a leader. He committed to it, and he did it. This is what he did.
I think another thing too, with an army like that, they probably could have continued conquering additional land.
Sure.
Said, no, we got just what we.
They could have marched across the Middle East, kept expanding. Said, no, we have our land. That's what we're supposed to do. Of course, we find out that they can quite get rid of everybody. Now we have two stories converge here. Joshua 14:10 through 13.
Now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses. While Israel moved about in the wilderness, so here I am today, 85 years old. I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard that when the Amorites were there and their cities were large and fortified, with the Lord helping me, I will drive them out just as he has said.
And then 13.
Then Moses blessed Caleb, son of
somebody.
Yep, and he gave him Hebron as his inheritance.
Okay, so the first part is Caleb talking, and then this is what Joshua did in response. So what's Joshua doing here? We talk a lot about what Caleb did, but what's Joshua doing here?
Just giving you permission and blessing and sending him out.
Right. So Caleb has this initiative that he wants to do. And Joshua says, go get him. Right? Extremely important from a leadership standpoint to distribute authority, leadership, power to people to go get stuff done that they decide they want to do, and you bless them. That's true in business. You let people be innovative, and you obviously want to believe that what they're going to do is a good idea. I mean, you're not just carte blanche, but you assess it. If it's a good idea, you let them go do it, and you give them the resources to get it done. Some of them will fail, some of them will succeed, but through that process, good things happen. Plus, people learn and they develop, and they get stronger and better as they grow up in their careers. Same thing is true as church. We talk around here that we have controlled chaos. People come up with an idea, we let them run with it. We don't try to control everything. We couldn't possibly if we wanted to. But the point is there, let people run with their ideas. Not everything's going to work, but that's okay. But a lot of things will work. And then in the home, if you're really, whether it's your encouragement to your wife or your kids, you're letting them decide a path for themselves, and you're encouraging them in it instead of you deciding what their path is. Joshua didn't figure out what Caleb ought to be doing at 85. Caleb figured out what Caleb ought to be doing at 85. He had a vision of what his life should be going forward, and Joshua blessed that. And he blessed it because Caleb had shown himself to be honorable and worthy of that kind of trust. You don't just give that to anybody and everybody, but you allow people to prove themselves, and you reward them in it and let them chase after their dreams instead of trying to tell them what their dreams should be. As a parent, that is sometimes hard. As your kids are deciding what they're going to do in college or after college. Yes, it can be hard. But the role of the parent of an adult child is to try to encourage those kids in the path they're choosing, just as Joshua was doing with Caleb in his leadership. Okay. 17, 3 and 4. This is a really good one. Let's go all the way through. Let's go actually through. Yeah, 3 and 4 is good. Somebody read. You got to pronounce all these names. It's required.
That's why no one's touching
I
that.
know.
Okay, here we go. Now, Zelophehad, son of Hepher, the son of Gilead, the son of Maker, the son of Manasseh, had no sons. Well, it sounds like somebody did.
There were lots of sons in there, but not this guy.
Had no sons, but only daughters, whose names were Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah.
Yeah.
They went to Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the leaders, and said, "The Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our relatives." So Joshua gave them an inheritance, along with the brothers of their father, according to the Lord's command.
Yeah. So, what's Joshua doing here again from a leadership standpoint?
One thing that strikes me is he's breaking tradition
Yep.
for the benefit of the
Right.
group, or he's not
And-
letting tradition rule the deal necessarily.
Right. See, he's not saying, no, the rules are this. He is willing to break tradition to do what he believes is the right thing to do. And we face those things. But we have these rules. And if you apply those rules to a given situation, you get an answer that's not right. And so you decide you're not gonna follow it, and you're gonna do something different. So a leader has to be willing to change the rules, bend the rules, make exceptions to the rules to fit the situation, rather than just blindly applying rules without thinking. That's uncomfortable sometimes, because you're saying, oh, well, this is the way we're supposed to do things, but that's the wrong answer here. And in this case, that's exactly what Joshua concluded, is the right answer is to do the right thing in this circumstance. It's not situation ethics. There are principles that apply that he is applying here that are very clear. He's not violating the law of God. It's been clearly said. He's just saying, it's the way things work, but we're going to change and do it this way in this situation.
Now, it's something you've said to me before, is you have the latitude to use good discretion.
That's right. Yeah. Latitude to use good discretion.
When it's not black and white.
That's right, because there's a whole lot of things that aren't black and white.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And that's part of the delegation process too, is you need to empower people who you're assigning responsibility to be able to make similar decisions. And to be able to make those kind of judgments and not second guess them when they make them. I've had situations like that where I didn't necessarily agree with the latitude they took, but I didn't hit them with it. I did express that I might have done things differently, but I would never say they have to reverse what they did. I'll support their decision. But I think you might consider next time you face this, you might think about it differently. If you're gonna give people latitude to make judgment decisions, you gotta let them make judgment decisions and support them. Okay, 14 through 17.
Then the people of Joseph spoke to Joshua, saying, Why have you given me but one lot and one portion as an inheritance, although I am a numerous people, since all along the Lord has blessed me? And Joshua said to them, If you are a numerous people, go up by yourselves to the forest, and there clear ground for yourselves in the land of the Perizzites and the Rephaim, since the hill country of Ephraim is too narrow for you. The people of Joseph said, The hill country is not enough for us, yet all the Canaanites who dwell in the plain have chariots of iron, both those in Beth-shean and its villages, and those in the valley of Jezreel. Then Joshua said to the house of Joseph, to Ephraim and Manasseh, You are a numerous people and have great power. You shall not have one allotment only.
Go ahead and read 18.
But the hill country shall be yours, for though it is a forest, you shall clear it and possess it to its furthest borders, for you shall drive out the Canaanites, though they have chariots of iron and though they are strong.
Now, there's a little bit of background. The tribe of Ephraim had been given their place. Manasseh had been given two places, one on one side of the Jordan and one on the other. So they had already been allocated their land when this is being said. And what are they saying to him? Ain't enough, right? They are complaining to Joshua because they don't have enough. He didn't give them enough. They got these problems. They got trees. They got chariots. They got. So how did Joshua deal with this situation? He's got a complaining group of people.
Fix it yourself.
Go fix it yourself. and you're capable of doing it. And he also even tells them what would be able to do, right? Go cut down some trees. It isn't that hard.
It's interesting they were complaining because the people had chariots with iron.
Yeah.
And the chariots with iron don't work well in the hill country.
No, they don't.
And the forest.
Yeah.
So he's basically saying, that's not a big advantage to
They're
them.
down in the valley of Jezreel, so what? That's flat.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be where it's flat. Yeah, yeah. Just don't go down there.
Why do you think they say the tribes of Joseph? 'Cause-
Interesting, because Ephraim and Manasseh, the children of Joseph,
Yeah.
the sons of Joseph, because they were together complaining.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was Ephraim and Joseph and Manasseh both were complaining about this. And so he lumped them in under the Joseph.
Maybe that's to remind them too.
Yeah, by the way, you came from Joseph.
Yeah.
Remember him?
Yeah, you're only here because of him.
And what was his attitude about things?
Yeah.
He kind of got stuff done, didn't
Yeah,
he?
he did.
Yeah, I think there was a point why probably that was made, right? Remember your father Joseph. He didn't complain and he got stuff done. You're gonna face, we all face, whether it is work, church, family, where people are complaining because it ain't going right. And generally the right answer is you don't coddle. You don't coddle. You tell them that they can get it done. And you give them suggestions of what they might do that they probably should have figured out already on their own, but you tell them, you can do it, go do it, this is what you need to do, and now go get it done. I'm not gonna listen to this anymore. There are times that a leader has to do that. There are times a leader has to speak in those kind of terms. A leader cannot always be warm and fuzzy. In fact, leaders are best, particularly, well, they need to have this ability. As a father, you need to be warm and fuzzy a lot, but there are times when that's not what you want. All right, we are to the end, and I'm going to finish up next week. We're actually going to finish walking through Joshua, and we'll wrap it up next week. And that'll be our last class.